Sight for a date.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Your Pennsylvania Dutch Minute. A couple episodes ago, I did a video about the Pennsylvania Dutch in the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia, and I got a lot of positive feedback from that, and I admitted in the video that I really didn't know anything about them. A little bit of research that I didn't do much, but I threw the video out there so at least we had a little bit of some background knowledge, and I got tons of comments from people about, their experiences as growing up in the Shenandoah Valley, interacting with Pennsylvania Dutch, or being Pennsylvania Dutch descendants there in the Shenandoah Valley. One of the emails that I got was from a gentleman that said, "Do you know about the story of Elder John Kline?" And of course, I didn't. I wasn't familiar with it at all. And he said, "Check it out. I think it would make for a good video." So I did a little bit of research, and yeah, this guy has a crazy life story to share, and I think it's a really neat story, so I thought, well, we'll do a video about it. So that's what we want to concentrate on today. Now again, I'm not going to say that I know everything about this guy. I just did some basic research for a short video to at least tell his story a little bit to you guys. And if you want to do more research, you're more than welcome to, or correct me in the comment section, of course, if I say something wrong. But let's talk about Elder John Kline. So he gets the name Elder because of his position in the Brethren Church. Now, again, I was raised Lutheran, still a practicing Lutheran. I know about the Brethren Church. I know that they are a more conservative, Germanic-based, Pennsylvania Dutch-based Protestant faith group, and there are multiple little strands under the umbrella term Brethren. There are the Schwarzenau Brethren. There were the German Baptists, the Dunkards. There were the River Brethren. There's a bunch of them. Today, the largest, I guess, is the Church of the Brethren, which has multiple congregations throughout Pennsylvania and probably throughout the United States, and probably other countries of the world too. As I mentioned, they tend to be a little bit more conservative faith-wise than maybe some of the other mainline Protestant faiths. And in their history, of course, they were very conservative, looking back to their beginnings. So anyway, we have the Church of the Brethren. That's the basis of this story. And I'm going to share some information that I found about this guy. The historian Donald Dernbaugh has described John Kline as, quote, arguably the most beloved personality in Brethren history, unquote. That's a strong statement. So this guy must have done something to get that kind of title still today in this rich history of the Church of the Brethren. So let's talk about Kline. Kline was born in Dauphin County, Pennsylvania on the 17th of June, 1797, and he was the son of two Pennsylvania Dutchmen, John Kline, his dad, and Mary Hershey Kline. Now, we see that name Hershey. Most likely, she probably is related to the Hersheys that would give us Milton Hershey and Hershey Chocolate Corporation, particularly being in Dauphin County because that's where the Hersheys were. How she's related, don't know, but somehow I'm sure. So he was born there in Pennsylvania, and as a boy, the family moved to Rockingham County, Virginia. Shenandoah Valley, of course, probably with other families maybe from the region moving down there as well. In March of 1818, he married Anna Wampler, Wampler, who was the daughter of John Wampler and Magdalena Garber Wampler. A lot of Germanic, Pennsylvania Dutch style names going on there. So she probably spoke the dialect well, I should say. He would go on then to buy a farm on the Linville Creek, which is now near the town of Broadway, Virginia, and according to this, 5 miles north of Harrisonburg, Virginia today. He and his wife would have one baby daughter born in March of 1819, but it doesn't say what happened, but she might have been stillborn or died quickly after birth because it said that the daughter did not live and was actually unnamed, so probably stillborn, I would imagine. At some point, we don't know exactly when, but Kline joined the German Baptist Brethren Church, and you can research that group more on your own. In 1827, he was chosen to serve as a deacon by the Linville Creek congregation, and he was, quote-unquote, called to the preaching ministry in 1830, and like other Brethren ministers of his day, he served without remuneration throughout his lifetime. At first, the Brethren met in members' homes or barns or even in open fields, and Kline would go on to give land and money to build an actual church, in which would become the Linville Creek German Baptist Brethren Church. Here's where his story gets really interesting. At least I find it very interesting. During this time period of the 1830s, 40s, 50s, and into the 1860s, he frequently traveled to Southwest Virginia and to what is now West Virginia, preaching, baptizing, visiting Brethren families as they were spread out throughout the entire, frontier area there. And he would go on to help establish many new congregations. According to the Brethren Encyclopedia, they record that based on Kline's own personal records, he very may well have covered as much as 100,000 miles during his lifetime on horseback, traveling to these Brethren groups to do the work that he was called to do. I think that's an unbelievable number when you think about it, 100,000 miles. It's unbelievable. Kline also studied and practiced the medical procedures of Dr. Samuel Thompson of Vermont so that he could treat the sick as well as minister to people spiritually. I saw somewhere else that he also learned a lot of herbal-based remedies as well in his lifetime. In 1861, he was attending the annual meeting of the church, would mean all of, Brethren congregations from all over the United States coming together every year to have their annual meeting to discuss things, to make decisions for the church. And he was elected the moderator, which according to this is the highest or was the highest elected office of the church at the time. And in fact, he was so popular that he was reelected in 1862, 1863, and 1864. Now, being Pennsylvania Dutch and also being a Brethren, of course, the Brethren are pacifists, but he also was a very outspoken proponent against slavery and, when the Civil War breaks out, against the war. And he actually would go as far as lobbying the Virginia legislature and other officials in Virginia to make it possible for the Brethren of Virginia and in the South to honor their pacifist beliefs in objecting and participating in the military. In fact, he and his good friend and in-law Benjamin Moomaw of Botetourt County argued that the Brethren farmers could be of more assistance to the Confederate cause by supplying the troops with food than they could by fighting. Most likely, that's probably true. His story gets even more interesting in my mind. As we know, if you know anything about the Civil War, the lines between Union and Confederate constantly were moving based on where battles were taking place and where the armies were located. And throughout the war, Kline crossed those Union and Confederate lines many, many times over to attend various church meetings, to attend to people for baptizing, to help spread the gospel. And because of that, he was actually able to obtain passes from both sides, meaning he got passes from the Union Army to travel into Union territory and passes from the Confederate Army to, of course, travel within Confederate lines as well. However, it's noted that both sides, Union and Confederate, were a little wary of him because he gave medical and spiritual help to both Union and Confederate troops. And I'll bet you he was serving a lot of religiously geared soldiers and looking for some kind of faith, or some religious help maybe, or, to talk to a pastor. And at one time he actually was imprisoned for 2 weeks in Virginia because he was suspected of holding Union sympathies in the war. Sadly, on the 15th of June, 1864, while returning from one of these trips over the north-south line at the time, he was ambushed and killed near his home by young Confederate sympathizers. His death was deeply mourned, and he was widely regarded among his fellow Baptist brethren as a wise counselor and a highly effective evangelist. I just think that's a crazy story, someone that goes to all lengths for their faith. And you think about how dangerous his life was, traveling between enemy lines, but not as somebody that was taking a side in the war. I think, he was on the side of, in his mind, the side of God and Jesus, probably, doing the work that he felt he needed to do as a leader of the church. Sadly, of course, it cost him his life. While doing some research, I found out that his original home, the John Kline Homestead, has been preserved and is a living museum. You can check that out, and I'll put a link in the comments for the video. But it's johnklinehomestead.com, where you can read more about his life and what this museum does. It looks like they do a lot of reenacting and have a lot of weekend stuff where people can come and learn about not only John Kline, but also maybe the early Brethren Church there in the Shenandoah Valley. And also see how people lived during that time period. The website has a lot of information, and again, I'll put a link down below. So what a great story of someone that sacrificed it all for their faith and for their fellow man in a time when our country was completely torn in two, and a very dangerous time to be someone that was outspoken. It sounded like John Kline was not afraid to stand up, not only stand up for what he believed in, but also to speak out for what he believed in. So there's a quick short history of Elder John Kline. To learn more, of course, just search his name online. I did find quite a lot of sites, and definitely check out the John Kline Homestead website. And if you've been there before, leave a comment down below and let us know, how you enjoyed that visit, okay? If you have an idea for a future video, email me. My email address is at the end of the video. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already done so. Keep practicing your Pennsylvania Dutch. Send me ideas. I would have never known about John Kline, and now because of that one email, I was able to share his story with 6,000 of my subscribers on YouTube, 6,000 plus subscribers. Also, if you're a business doesn't matter where you're located, and you'd like a shout out on one of these videos to help support and maintain Pennsylvania Dutch culture and language and history, I'll gladly do that. Just drop me a line and let me know. This week, again, we'll give a shout out to the Grand Central Tap Room in Fleetwood, Pennsylvania. Great libations, great food, and great atmosphere. Check them out if you are in that part of Berks County. Until next time, keep practicing your Pennsylvania Dutch, and Max gut.
Max gut.